joined in by my colleague Akshita, product head at TMI. Today we mark 33 years of innovation and impact. And what better way to celebrate than by focusing on a cause that's been close to our heart, youth employment. Sharing a brief anecdote about how TMI's commitment to youth employment began. This is a story from our founder, T. Muralidharan, or TMD as he's fondly called. So this journey with employment and scaling began in 2009, not in a boardroom, but in a dusty village called Dwasa in Jaipur. Imagine the scene. Midday sun, a conversation with the village sarpanch, and a shared dream of empowering young people in the village with jobs. Graduation is the answer, our founder had declared, brimming with city optimism. The village sarpanch was a little skeptical. He then called over two brothers, both graduates from the village, Gangaram and his elder sibling. He told TMD, please get them jobs. But there was a surprise here. They weren't working, they were waiting. Upon probing, TMD realized that their choice in their graduation majors, which was BA Political Science in Hindi, wasn't driven by passion for the subject, but because of bus schedules. Because the first bus to Jaipur town leaves at 10 a.m. in the morning and leaves for the village back at 4 p.m. And the only course that was available at Jaipur University was a BA in Political Science. The kicker, this when TMD inquired with them about the whereabouts, about their friends and families, what are they doing, where are they working. Some of them apparently were engaged in farming and labor, but our brothers here refused menial work or labor. They were graduates, remember? So this wasn't just the story of these two brothers, it was India's stories. Millions graduating with lofty expectations, but zero skills that can match their employability. So we were churning graduates faster than creating jobs for them. TMD realized that India has a passing out at around 5 million people every year, but there were hardly 500,000 jobs every year for these grads. That's when the spark ignited. The problem wasn't degrees, but the disconnect between them and the skill set for employability. TMD joined hands with NSD, and that is when TMI E2E was formed. E2E stands for Education to Employment. The mission, bridge the gap, equip these graduates with real-world skills that can get them on a path to meaningful careers. So this wasn't a company, this was a movement. We weren't just training, we were transforming lives. Imagine Gangaram, not stuck at the bus stop, but using his skills to soar. That's the power of skilling, the fuel that drives our journey. That's why today on our Foundation Day, we celebrate not just years of innovation, but our unwavering commitment to empower young people like Gangaram to unlock their true potential. This is our story. It's just a beginning. Join us as we continue to bridge the gap and pave the way for a future where every young person has the skills and opportunity to succeed. Can I now request TMD and the guests to come for the lighting of the lamp, please? We'll kick off the event. Yeah. So, can I call the other guests, Vikram Garu, Narendra Garu, and BVR as well, please?
Thank you so much, sir. Balasubramanian Ramakrishnan, or BR as we call him, is the Group CEO of TMI. Imagine 300 passionate minds united under BR's vision, crafting cutting edge solutions for the evolving world of work. CNK Management, TMI Network, and TMI E2E Academy. Each success story bears his fingerprints. But BR's influence extends far beyond boardrooms. He is a champion for change, collaborating with powerhouses like GIZ, UNICEF, and the World Bank to transform the lives of over 1.4 million Anganwadi workers, who in turn impact 16 million children. That's an impact that you can measure not just in numbers, but in empowered communities. BR is a leader who doesn't just manage, he inspires. Here's a video from a jet-lagged BR, all the way from Atlanta. Could we have the AV, please?
Good day, everyone. Unfortunately, I'm missing this as I'm on a business trip to the US that could not be rescheduled. I would like to welcome and thank every one of the assembled guests, especially the Honorable Minister for IT and Industry, Shri Sridhar Babu, esteemed speakers, friends of TMI, and assembled guests. Thank you for being with us here on this very special day, the 33rd anniversary of TMI. Today is a very special day for us as we mark one more year of TMI Group being there for our esteemed corporate customers, delivering value to them through a range of HR services. Also being there for the thousands of candidates that we connect with every day, trying to move them ahead in their careers. And the thousands of trainees whom we start off every month on their roles or move them ahead on the productivity curve. And also the lakhs of learners as we partner multilateral agencies that include the World Bank, WHO, GIZ, the Asian Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, among others, and many more besides government ministries, departments, and institutions across India, East Africa, and Central Asia. Last, and perhaps not the least, the thousands of beneficiaries that we train and place using funds from esteemed CSR sponsors that include Microsoft, NASCOM Foundation, Syngenta, Scient, among many others. I would like to thank every one of them for staying with TMI and allowing us to grow with them over the years. As I look back the year that has gone by, the first full year post-COVID, it's been a year of recovery for us, especially from Q3 onwards. During the year, we have reinvented ourselves and recast our vision, mission, values to be aligned with the TMI 2.0 that we envisage, which will take us from TMI 33 to TMI 50. TMI 50 is a little ambitious. Surely Murli and I are not going to be around for that, but our one downs and their one downs are all going to be there, and I'm sure they will celebrate a grand TMI at 50 event. But perhaps I would like to set a less ambitious target. Add a 3 to the 33 that's already done and define what is TMI at 36. So TMI at 36, what is it likely to be? I would like to define this in 3 dimensions. I think the first dimension would be growth, like how any organization would measure itself. So we could perhaps be a 500 crore company by 2026-27. That's 3 years from now, from the 170 odd crores turnover that we would perhaps end this year with. The second dimension would be impact. Impact in terms of people placed, beneficiaries, helped, countries that we operate in, the number of staff, government staff perhaps that we impact on, number of countries that we operate in. Could be many of these dimensions. We currently do about 1,500 hires a month. I think perhaps it would be around 5,000 hires a month. And this automatically means from processing something like 50,000 candidates a month now, we would move to about processing 200,000 candidates a month to get those 5,000 hires. In our staffing business, perhaps we would move from the 5,000 and odd people that we have on our payroll to over 20,000. In the trainees that we process every year, between 60 to 80,000 a year today, I can see a significant growth there to go to maybe over 300,000 per year. In terms of geographies, definitely Africa is something that we would expand upon, in Central Asia, but I also see, especially after this current trip, of a TMI US operations where we could be offering both RPO and content outsourcing. There is a huge opportunity out here, and I'm sure TMI will be doing that. And again, in terms of the beneficiaries from the thousands that we do today, perhaps we would hit. I also see that by 26, 27, we would be impacting on at least 100,000 beneficiaries using funds from our CSR donors. Mention that I would perhaps define in TMI 36 is the way we operate. It's increasingly a phygital world. And the last 3 days at the ATD conference in Los Angeles that I've attended, the only mantra that I've continuously heard about is AI, embed AI everywhere. And I've become a full convert too. Not to reduce the manpower that we would deploy, that would not make sense, but use it to expand the capability of our staff to do far more, much more efficiently, is what I would perhaps consider. 3 years ago, we got onto the RPA bandwagon, and today we run 100 plus bots that help us take out the drudge work from the recruiting team and the staffing team of ours. But we got to go far more, and AI would perhaps help us do that. We definitely can see a future that in the next year, and as we move forward, it will become more intense, that AI would be there to help our recruiters process many more candidates. Some of their tasks will be taken over by the bots so that they can focus on more value adding tasks. Similarly, in our content team, there could be bots that help our instructional designers and content creators, even our graphic artists, create images so that they can then build on top of that. They'll not get replaced because ultimately that human intervention is required. But initial heavy lifting could be done by bots. I can easily see AI helping our trainers manage the virtual instructor training much better and engaging with the training audience. I can see that we could have, and we will definitely deploy AI-driven chatbots that help our trainees go up the performance curve very quickly. Some sort of a job assistant that's available on their phone just in time that they can consult with. So every aspect of the operation that TMI does, I see that there would be some AI embedded and perhaps some RPA embedded. We could visualize that we would perhaps be the front runner in India for RPA and AI embedded HR services so that we deliver best value all our customers, client, corporate, government, multilateral agencies, individual learners, and the beneficiaries. That's the future that I see by the time we're definitely TMI at 36. I would like to sum up the third dimension that I talked about as machine and then man is the way that we would operate when we are TMI at 36. Thank you all for a patient hearing. Wish you a fabulous evening out there, and thank you once again for assembling here to be with us on this important day, TMI 33.
Yeah. May I now request the guests for the occasion to please assemble on the stage. Can I request TMD to join, please? Mohan Garu, Narendra Garu, Vikram Garu. Unfortunately, the Honorable Minister for IT, D.Sridhar, Babu, couldn't join us. We are still not sure about Jayesh Ranjan Garu. We still don't have their confirmation. We'll start off the event. Akshita, I'll request the kids from Uddhav School. Uddhav School is, we at TMI Group support Uddhav School as a part of our CSR initiative. Just a small token of gratitude from our side, from the kids at Uddhav. TMD, can I request you to join us and say a few words, please?
Sorry. I know all of us know him, but I would like to give a small introduction to TMD. So, T. Muralidharan, or TMD, as we call him, is a serial entrepreneur who ignites careers. He is an author of 2 best-selling books on careers, an independent journalist, and a freshly minted lawyer. For 3 decades, TMI Group has thrived under his leadership, placing over 100,000 managers and skilling 200,000 executives. He is a past FICCI chairman and the current advisor to the Governor of Rajasthan on employment. TMD once said, and I quote, "Without government scholarship and very subsidized education, many of us in our generation would not have completed our IIT and IIM educations. The people of India funded us. We must return the favor." And this is something that makes me very emotional, that I get to work for a man like him. Who better to speak about the Indian youth employment, their challenges, and the solutions? TMD, I invite you to share your thoughts.
First of all, apologies for Minister not coming. I've been following up with him, but they said he may come, may not come, but I was very particular that we should start on time. So I've taken the liberty of starting. But I think you are very important, and Mohan Reddy Garu, I requested him the last time, sir, thank you so much for accepting my request to share his thoughts. I think the purpose of this meeting is to focus on India's single largest problem, in my mind. The single largest problem is youth unemployment. There are many, many thoughts come in my mind as I stand here and think about it, because I've traveled extensively in India. We have hired people in very, very small towns. We conducted job fairs in UP once, I remember. And job fair was about 500 jobs, 50,000 people came. And some of them came with guns to the job fair. So when I asked in Deoria district of UP, I asked the SP, he said, "Sir, in this place there are no jobs. There are a lot of graduates. The largest number of graduates passing out in UP is from this area, but there are no jobs." So they're getting frustrated. So I think somewhere from my heart, I sometimes feel that we are not giving enough attention to the problem. So when we are deciding on the theme for today, what we want to think about our future, I said all of us in this room, including the speakers, the biggest issue we want to hear from you, we want to participate, collaborate, and create some solution for the youth of India. I've been doing a lot of research. I've been publishing a lot of material on this. So I'm going to share some significant data to set the context of what is the scenario on the ground. Many of us can't see it in D-Hub. It's a beautiful building and it's a lovely evening. But the reality is something I'm going to spell it out. Some of you on the table, we have given you some important statistics. Problem in all storytelling is that sometimes the story hijacks the facts. And that's why even though she told the Gangaram story, how we started, but there's a large number of statistics is not known to all of you. And that's the first attempt I'm going to make. And thereafter, I'm going to invite our speakers also to share their thoughts, and later on we'll open it up for all of us to contribute. So you're not here as a guest, you're coming as a participant. And fortunately, we have extra time today, and therefore we'll use it for getting some collaboration. And we'll take down notes in what you say, and later on we'll go back to the drawing board and see how TMI can work with each of you or together to solve this problem. Voice is not coming clearly. Okay, I'll come closer, yeah. I think first I want to talk about the dimension. How big is this problem? We all hear anecdotal stories. I don't get a driver. I don't get a plumber at home. This is the storytelling we hear. But I want to give you some quick statistics. We say India is a youth country. Our median age is about 28. And 65% of our population, or 130 million people, are less than 35 years. Out of that, majority of the children have dropped out of school. Our school dropout ratios are still extremely high, 60% dropout in class 10. And 70% of the children are still studying in government schools. And you know, one of the challenges, I've been to Scient Science has done a fantastic job in corporatizing the schools, especially the government schools. But if you look at the government school as a whole category, there are a lot of stories published. Recently, there was also a research report published about the quality of education in schools in India. So if 70% of the children are in government schools, 60% drop out in class 10, now you can imagine what the quality of the youth that we have. And I think Ravi talked about AML, and there is very clear indication that the traditional jobs that we have in India, especially in service sector, will be significantly lost. There will be a significant reduction in job roles which are rule-based, jobs which are largely creative job-based. A lot of things are changing. And in this context, even AML cannot help because many of them are not even qualified to class 10. On an average, we have 17 million people every year who coming and look for non-farm sector jobs, 17 million. And if you ask the question, how many jobs have we created in the last so many years? Well, you'll be surprised to know the best estimate is 5 million and the lowest is about 3 million average. So now you can imagine 17 million people, 5 million come out of farm sector because farm sector agriculture is not viable, they're coming into non-farm sector. But 12 to 13 million people are not finding jobs in India. So this second problem, first problem is the supply is very poor. The second interesting fact is the demographics are working against the Indian youth. What do you mean by that? If you have any scenario where the supply is 17 million and demand is 3 million, the intersection of supply and demand is compensation. Many of us in this room will tell stories about how we are not able to get people, but we did a research a few years ago with a very large 3 or 4 million data points about what is the salary of average person in India. Over a 12-year period between 1999 and 2011, the study conducted and it came out with a very astonishing conclusion. The conclusion was an average factory worker's compensation, net of inflation, declined over a 12-year period for 50% of the industries. Now you can imagine, the compensation is the biggest factor for most of the youth in India. Our cost of living has gone up dramatically, all of us know, but the compensation has remained stagnant. Even today, even for graduates, the biggest problem is compensation. I'll talk a little more about it. But unfortunately, the so-called demographics, which is supposed to be, we talk about demographic dividend, is actually working against the youth of India. That's the second point I want to make. The most interesting aspect of this also, rural women. Historically, we used to believe rural women are working in the farm, they're working in small jobs in the villages. They're dropping out of the job market. They're getting out of the workforce. And urban India, the women are, what we call labor force participation is falling or remaining constant. So women are not getting into the job roles. So on one side, the government of India is very actively pushing more and more graduate girls to come in, what we call a male-female ratio. In the colleges, it's almost 50%. But the girls are studying but not taking a job. Now, this is a big problem because in the country we are creating more and more graduates who are aspirational. They come with a lot of expectation, but when they leave the colleges, the reality is very stark for them. The last portion is I want to talk a lot more about youth and Telangana and graduates. First is about graduates. As it was mentioned earlier, I was doing calculations how many people are passing out of colleges in India? How many from, everybody knows MBA colleges, maybe 1 lakh or 2. Engineering colleges, 6 lakh, 7 lakh people, and that is declining. But if you calculate all the BA, B.Ed, ITIs, graduate diploma holders, we are approximately 5 to 6 million passing out every year. And we did an exercise to find out what are the graduate jobs. See, for example, if you ask a question, many jobs a 12th class pass can do. Why would a graduate do? Most of the graduates want to do graduate jobs. So we have calculated how many graduate jobs are we creating. Traditionally, 3 sectors only create the maximum number of graduate jobs. Number 1, IT sector, which has been our savior for this country. The second sector is BFSI, we are in the sector, we produce a lot of jobs for graduates, and that's how we specialize in graduate employment or unemployment. And the third is healthcare and pharma. Together, over a period of 7 or 8 years, average job creation has not been more than 500,000. So here you have 5 million, and the job for graduates is less than 500,000. So now this is the stark reality of the numbers for us. The other point I want to highlight is about the strategy of the government. The government keeps saying that increase the GDP. As the GDP grows, the wealth will get distributed and people will become happy. So a lot of research has been going on. World Bank has been doing a lot of research and asking what is called employment elasticity. Employment elasticity is the relationship between employment and GDP. You'll be surprised to know the employment elasticity recently was negative. In other words, as GDP grows, employment is not going to go. In fact, it is lower than many countries in the developing world, which is where the employment elasticity is 0.3, we are minus 0.11. So therefore, this really opens up a big reality. Even today in Telangana, I'm sure the minister is not there, but I told him the same thing. There's a lot of excitement about big industries coming in, but the big industries are not creating jobs. On an average, it takes about 5 to 6 crores of investment to produce one job in the organized sector. And you can imagine what the kind of work MSMEs have been doing in India. So effectively, what we are saying is the current strategy of government of pushing GDP growth, getting more and more GST collections. These are all stories about GDP. It's a good story. We want country to flourish. But what it's doing is not creating jobs for the people. What's the consequence? First consequence is government is forced to do dole. Many state governments are looking at how to keep the graduates happy, and they're willing to pay some money. But that's not a solution, because you're making more and more people unemployable. The only way to make people employable is to give them a job. Whatever we do, skilling, anything we do, unless they find a job where they're accountable for some outcome, unless they get a discipline of going to work on a daily basis, unless they focus on how they can contribute, they are not going to learn anything. So unfortunately, even the skill movement in India, which I am very much part of, I've been telling the ministers and skill, please do not focus on skilling outside the job. How do we get more people into job? And the only place where they can find jobs is the MSME sector. For example, one of our suggestions recently, state government has asked us to give some suggestions on what should we do. I said, first create a ministry of MSME and employment. This is what we need. Obviously, industries minister will continue to handle the heavy industries and big industries. Kanraj Mishra started in 2014. It was the first time Mr. Modi announced that MSME cabinet minister rank was created. Tamil Nadu today has a minister for MSME. I feel in Telangana, we should really focus on MSME and employment cabinet minister. Why? Because many, many things can happen once somebody puts a focus in the MSME. For example, I'll give you one example. In the MSME sector, the largest employment is coming from micro and small industry, not from medium size. But these two industries really require funds. Government of India has announced a Mudra scheme. They recently published some data on how many people have benefited. But if you look at Telangana, how many people are benefiting from Mudra loans? Whose job it is to encourage more and more our small and micro entrepreneurs to get access to government funding? It's a state government job. So the MSME ministry, if you form in the government, state government, there is a very good possibility we will be able to encourage our SME sector to access government funds, encourage them to become more digital. But today the focus in SMEs are very, very poor. The last one is about graduate unemployment in Telangana. This is one of the shocking statistics which I read. In India and even in Telangana, the unemployment rate for graduates who are 21 to 25 is 44%. 44% is the unemployment rate among people who are 21 to 25. It drops and it goes down to 28, 29 to 22%, and it drops to 2 to 3% as they cross 35. This is a very important statistic. What the statistics tells you is that all the graduates are waiting for government jobs. They are not looking for private sector jobs. That's why you say crores of people applying. So they wait till they exhaust that possibility and then get into private sector jobs. Any job they take, any kind of jobs. So what we have also created is high expectation government will provide jobs, but you'll be surprised the total number of jobs state government has, total number of employees or the sanctioned job roles are only 5 lakh people for a state of 3.5 crores. So anyway, what I'm trying to highlight to you is that this problem is our problem. It's not mine, it's everybody's problem here. And this room today, if I get some at the end of today's meeting, all of us can come together and see how we can contribute, how we take ownership for this problem of the nation. And in whatever way, maybe money is not an important, get involved, contribute, write about it, put pressure on politicians to make them understand the SME problem. If we can do something collectively together, I think today's function would have achieved its objective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Shri Vikram Garu is a partner in M. Anandam & Co. Chartered Accountants since 1980. He was earlier on the boards of 2 nationalized banks. Presently, he is the chairman of ASM Technologies. He is also on the boards of 8 companies, including Time and Facebook India. He is the chairman of MV Foundation, a pioneering institution on issues of child labor, and has mobilized more than 1.2 million children to schools. He is also the chairman of Sahakara Mitra Samstha, which works with farmer groups in Andhra Pradesh. Sir, could I please invite you to the podium to please share your thoughts on the topic? Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Murali, for inviting me to be on the panel. In the first place, I think there's a mistake you made because I don't know whether my skills are fit for this job. I'll try. It's really an honor to be here on this panel and such distinguished people on the dais. And when he asked me to speak on my experiences from the NGO sector, so I would like to, in a short speech, tell you my experiences of running 3 NGOs which I run from the point of view of skills and development and employment and what I saw across the country. I am the chairman of a foundation called MV Foundation. Most of you would know my sister, Shanta Sinha, but last 10 years I've been running this foundation. And we work across the country on a variety of geographies and communities, mobilizing children to schools. And we are now working extensively in very difficult areas, Dantewada, Bihar, Kashmir, Assam. So my experience, and our previous experience in 30 years when we worked extensively in Rangareddy. So the first observation I would like to make is that the amount of enthusiasm which we find amongst the youth in this country to do a good job, and what more could they deliver if only they had a little extra skill. I think that's the first thing which I noticed, that at a peak of the work across the country, we had almost about 30,000 youth volunteers working across the country. And all of them went through small training sessions, but were, I would call them experts in mobilizing children to schools. So when someone tells me that our foundation, even I'm guilty of this, when they read about our foundation, and then they say that we have mobilized 1.2 million children to school, I think that's a wrong metric. The metric should be that we have mobilized 30,000 volunteers across the country who we have trained to mobilize children to school. And that should be the metric. But somehow that doesn't appeal to the donors, to the CSR funders. It doesn't appeal to them when I say I want you to fund our volunteers. I want you to fund their salaries. I want you to understand that they have skills and their skills are specialized. I feel it is an insult to the kind of work these volunteers are doing when someone tells them that they're doing NGO work. Because to get a child to school in an unknown community is a technical job. There is a protocol involved. There is a lot of understanding of the community. There is a way of tackling the parents, the way of tackling the community, there's a way of tackling the teachers, there's a way of enrolling them into schools, there's a way of monitoring it. This is as complicated as writing code. So when someone says you're doing very noble charitable work, it is an insult to the amount of technology that goes into getting the child to school. That's the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that these 30,000 people are somehow unique in this country. And there are many institutions like that which have trained these youth to be able to do a specialized job and skill. Somehow in our minds, we do not think of that as a job or a skill. So there is a need to redefine what we are looking for in this youth. The second thing I would like to say is in the context of the work in our foundation. Apart from it being a complicated job to get the child to school, they also convey a strong message. The message they convey is, if someone like them, typically between the age groups 19 to 25, can do this job and can get children to school, it is something sustainable for succeeding generations to come to leave that training skills in the community and to have successor teenagers who are getting into the same stream and to train them and to get them into the mainstream. I find it, especially in the work which we are now doing in Bihar, that our 5-year-old, 6-year-old volunteers who are with us are experts in training the new recruits much better than what we can do. It shows how much they can absorb in a new skill which they themselves did not have about 5-6 years ago. That leaves me a lot of hope. The hope it leaves is that I think we make a mistake by underestimating how much they can absorb. The second thing is that how much they can transmit what they have absorbed. And that training skill, which I find in my volunteers, is what I would like to present to this group. I would like to say that it's not my 30,000 volunteers who are there. There are at least, my estimate, at least 3 million such people in this country who are doing tremendous work in this NGO field and whose work is not measured by the kind of input and time they are giving, but it is measured in terms of the output which they give. When people ask me, how many children have you mobilized to school? Nobody has asked me this question. None of my donors have asked me this question. How many volunteers have you trained? We have the country champion sitting here on software. So I'm sure he understands that when he says that I have 10,000 people working, 20,000 people working, that is what the treasure is. And which is much more than whatever, I don't know your turnover, sir. And I think that is much more valuable than the 5,000 crore or 10,000 crores. To measure training, to measure volunteer training, we call them volunteers, we pay them, but to measure it in terms of themselves as persons is to respect their skill. And there are many such skills in the market. This is the first thing. The second NGO I work with is we work with weavers. I'm limiting this to only the NGO work. We work with weavers and we work with weaving communities across South India. They're mostly handloom weavers. And what I notice is that when people talk about handloom weaving and people talk about weavers, we're talking about the declining trend of weavers to continue in their profession. That is a common articulation. The common articulation is that handloom doesn't have a future, the number of weavers are coming down. But today, the second largest employer after agriculture is still the weaving community. There are still approximately 2.8 million weavers in this country, and that figure is growing. Actually, it's not coming down. So there is something happening here. And I would say what is happening here is their ability to skill themselves, either as a culturally as a succession because the father becomes a weaver, the son becomes a weaver, or because market demands what they are making. There is a demand for the market. So how are they skilling themselves? What is happening in that sector? What is happening in that sector is that they are able to innovate themselves to produce a variety of products, which frankly, if you ask me, I have not seen that originality in the powerloom sector. And these weaver community, these 28 lakh weavers in the country, have tremendous skill, tradition, culture, and the ability to sustain themselves. So what do we need to do there to promote those jobs, to promote those weavers, is to reskill them and to give them an identity that they are not just weavers, but they are just holders of knowledge. Just like how I would like my volunteers in my MB Foundation to be respected for their ability to mobilize children to school, I would like the weaver to be respected not for the product which he is giving, but for the fact that he has the skill to make that product. And that is not an ordinary thing. You know, I have met weavers who can do a mathematical calculation in their head without the need of a computer of a complex grid which has 10 different designs and which is a grid of 1024 by 1024. And they can do it in their head. So there is something which is going on in their skill and in their training to be able to deliver a complex design and to crack the design. So what is the challenge we have here? Is that we have to work on that skill and see how they have acquired that skill and how to nurture that skill. And here we have a sector where we think that these 28 million weavers can easily double in about 5 years' time, given inputs of their understanding their knowledge and their skill. So we have a separate NGO which we are working on, where we promote the knowledge of the weaver, not the product of the weaver. Because whenever we talk about handloom, we say what a lovely product, what a great design. No one talks about the weaver. So there is a large community in this country. So my understanding of that community, of the weaving community, is this, that they have a specialized skill. The modern market is a different market. We need many other types of specialized skills. So when the government of India, in its budget, says that they are promoting national highways, there's a lovely highway in which we recently traveled from Delhi to Lucknow. And it is a highway built by the National Highway Authorities of India. They spent 30,000 crores on this one. Frankly, it's been a great experience traveling in that highway. But if you want me to choose priorities, has it built jobs? Has it created jobs the way we wanted to create? Because we measure the 30,000 crore as an investment in this one. I would like that to have been 300 village roads built in a period of a year. Because if you build village roads, then you're promoting local communities. It might sound very Gandhian, but I still think that it is still possible that if you build rural infrastructure, then you will stop migration from rural to urban communities. And when you build rural infrastructure, you are promoting rural skills of ability to build roads, lay roads, designing, local architects, whatever it is. The last thing I would like to say, I don't want to take much time, I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion on this, is that the government has a wonderful tool in the form of Manrega. Manrega demand is actually going up. So these are very, very low skill, low quality jobs. But here we have access to lakhs of workers who are demanding work. and look at how much you can do with them if only you also reskill them. There are, this year, the demand for Manrega work has gone up by at least 20,000 crores. That is because they are not getting employment anywhere else, and they're doing extremely low quality work. So there must be some effort to work with those Manrega workers to build a better road, to build a better dam, to build a better ditch, to build a better lake, to build a better anything. And you look at the amount of, look at the kind of opportunity we have in the government's hand, in the private sector hand. I don't believe that I don't believe in the phrase that we have to create jobs. Jobs will follow if you create demand. And if you create demand, the demand will come, in my opinion, the demand now has to come from the tier 2, tier 3, tier 5 cities, and that's where the real demand comes. India has to now concentrate not on urban infrastructure, but a rural infrastructure, concentrate on skills, concentrate on people, concentrate on the lakhs of people who are, in any case, we can, in my experience, will do a little better with a little more skill. I will wait for reactions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Shri Narendra Garu graduated in chemical engineering from the Manipal Institute of Technology in 1975. He worked in a metal finishing company, for 2.3 years before joining Pragathi Offset Private Limited, a commercial printing press started by his father, Shri Prachuri Hanumantrao, in 1962. Narendra Garu was instrumental in upgrading the press with the latest technologies and building a team that was professional in every way. He is supported by his brother Mahendra, sons Harsha and Hemant, and his niece Swati. Their hard work and keenness to excel has placed Pragathi where it is today, amongst the best printers in the world. Sir, could I please invite you to share your thoughts on this topic? Big round of applause for sir, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Murli, for inviting me here. I am from the brick and mortar industry, not the IT, not I am from printing industry. When I joined about 45 years ago, we had 30 employees. Today we have 2,000. That means we are employing people, we are training people. While I listen to Murli and everybody saying that we have to create jobs, I come from the other side. I have jobs, I have no people. So the point here is how much education is needed, how much is it that we have to train these people? That's not the question. Is there an attitude and aptitude? And that actually, if I get a fresh person with the proper reasonable attitude, he doesn't have to unlearn and relearn. He can only learn and become better. So it's a constant, the amount of people we hire, but the number of dropouts, and then to continue that, it becomes a very, very difficult, this one. I'm very happy, sir. Manrega we are spending money on Manrega, and we should, because after all, they have to eat and we have to do that. But did anyone ask, I have spent so many crores of rupees. Where is the road you have laid? Where is the pond you have dug? Where is the river you have deepened? So the point is, we are not really doing our jobs properly. We should. And government has to do its job to make sure that we have a better system of working. If I go to Factories Act of India, if you just type out Factories Act of India, it comes 1956 Factories Act of India. I mean, we are not really bothered to change it. I'm using the same systems what we have used so many years ago. If I have 500 workers, you need an ambulance and a doctor and a nurse. This was many years ago, but not today. So, issue is, government has to realize It is Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan and Jai Industrialist. There's no two ways about it. It's the industrialist who creates the jobs and not much more than what the government can create. Thank you. And we are very, very happy that we have found some fantastic people when we recruited an ordinary engineer. Today he is on the board of the directors, and really he's done so well by training. So many people of the 2000 have really become so good because of the attitude and aptitude. This will continue, but we need government also to help us to get the right kind of systems. I'm very happy government of Telangana has started giving permissions to the industries to build hostels in the factory. This is very, very important because the minimum wage today when you take somebody is 12,500, 12,600. If you don't provide a living space for them, it's very difficult to survive and continue and learn. So I'm happy that they've done that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Shri Mohan Reddy Garu is the founder chairman of SCIENT. He founded and served as executive chairman of SCIENT. He joined the DCM Group in 1974 and has subsequently worked with HCL and OMC Computers Limited. He was the chairman of NASSCOM from 2014 to 2015 and is a prolific business analyst. Mohan Garu holds a graduate degree in mechanical engineering from the College of Engineering, Kakinada, India, and postgraduate degrees from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, and the University of Michigan. He has also received an honorary PhD from the Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad, an honorary DSc from the Andhra University, Visakhapatnam, and Doctor of Science from KL University. Sir, could I please invite you on the dais to share your thoughts, please?
Mr. Vikram, Mr. Narendra, my good friend Murli, ladies and gentlemen, very good evening to all of you. As the cat's already let out of the bag, I'm a stand-in guest today, but given the great amount of relationship that I had to Murli, and equally important is the topics that he put on discussion today, never even made me think twice before I said, yes, I will speak. So I need to be a little careful in terms of making sure that I'm very cohesive in what I'm going to share with you this evening. The two topics that people talked about, one is the social responsibility that we have. Vikram talked about his NGO. Mr. Narendra talked about how he's creating jobs. That's one part of it. Or Murli extensively talked about this challenge with youth and employment. Before I get to those two topics, let me first do the ritual of congratulating my good friend, Murli, for successfully running this company for 33 years. A big round of applause. It is becoming difficult. I don't know how many of you realize this. In 1960s, the average age of Fortune 500 companies was 60 years. In 2010, Fortune themselves published that the average age of Fortune 500 companies came down to 20 years. It is predicted now that this year, the numbers will be somewhere in the range of about 15 to 16 years. So there are definitely clear indicators the lifespan of companies are shrinking. One could always ask questions why. There could be innumerable number of reasons why it happens. But one reason it certainly make sure that they live for a long, long time is leadership. And on that count again, let me join my hands to congratulate Murali for the leadership he provides. By a strange coincidence, my company too is the same vintage as Murali's company. It can't be more coincidental than this. He incorporated his company on 11th of February 1991. I became an entrepreneur on 28th August 1991. I'm younger to you, junior to you, Murali. And I've also survived for these many years. Survived with a small little difference, of course, that I have the unique distinction of running two publicly traded companies. That's what we spanned out from that modest beginning of 4 engineers in my home on my dining table. Vikram said, he wasn't very sure about how many people I employ or what my revenues are, but being publicly traded companies, I can tell you that we are inching towards $1 billion revenue, and we employ 18,000 people across the world. So the reason we said was leadership makes a difference in terms of making companies survive for a long time. But equally important is, what's the reason why companies are dying so quickly? Many reasons, all right, but one I'll call out is all about the technology. The acceleration of technology that we are seeing so far hasn't been experienced by mankind in the past. I'm so excited about technology, by a strange coincidence back again. In the last 24 hours, I used 2 new gadgets, literally they're gadgets. The first one was the Apple's Virtual Pro, which has got released earlier this month. And I was a little fortunate that somebody bought one for me from US. And the type of features it has and the capabilities it has usability it has, is just amazing. It's virtual reality technology that goes in. So literally a thick pair of glasses is what you're wearing. And you're getting rid of your computer, your TV, your phone, you name it. Everything is just gone out the window. And you don't require anything else except that you're pinching on the screen that comes in. I have a TV at home, which is, I believe, 48 inches or 54 inches, they keep calling it. The TV that I see in front of my eyes is as good as this room, as large as this room. That's what the Virtual Pro shows you. People change from one person, the gadget can be moved from one person to the other person. It automatically calibrates the sight of the next individual to show the right type of pictures for them. I wouldn't have ever imagined this happening. Then in the evening yesterday, I was reading this in one of our internal memos that we started installing the Copilot with Microsoft. I don't know how many of you are using that already. And so I was on travel for last 1 week. So I just got back. So therefore I said, no, it's important that I also get a Copilot on my Microsoft Outlook. And trust me, the excitement that I have in using it is unbelievable. You go to an email, you go to your email Outlook system, you got an email, you just now activate your Copilot, which is activation is nothing but clicking on a button, which is in the corner icon, and then click on the second one saying reply. It gives you a draft reply of what is there, what is to be sent to that particular email you received. How long does it take? 15 seconds. That's the maximum it took for a long email that I wrote. Here is something further it did for me. Then I went and they said, look, there's so many features that are there. So I said, let's look at a few of things that are exciting. It can convert a Word document into a PPT file and a PPT file into a Word document. It does both of them. Not necessarily all the content is yours. It can even source content on its own. So I had, we recently, relevant to this conversation today, did make a release about a skilling project that we have done in rural Telangana, to be more precise, in Babu. I gave this one-page document to, it was opened in PowerPoint, and then the Copilot was on, and then said, convert into PPT. 10 more seconds, I got 10 slides, absolutely relevant. Trust me, I wouldn't have made one single correction to that particular presentation if I were to do that to press. It was a press release converted to a presentation. So that's the speed of technology. In this scenario of technology, surviving for this long becomes difficult. I'll just make a last comment on that part of, I got 3 parts, let me finish my first part, is by saying that's actually being reflected in what we see as valuation of companies. In, say, 20 years back, the only technology company which figured in the top 10 most valued companies in the world was Microsoft. There's no other company which was there, the top 10. Fast forward 20 years, you now look at what is the most valuable companies in the world. There's only one non-technology company. It's the Apples and the Microsoft and the Googles and the Facebooks and so on and so forth. It goes on. That's the transformation we are going through, and we all need to be aware of that. Let me move on to the second topic, which was about the social impact. As much as I said earlier, we looked at what are the success factors for companies. And we said leadership, and the other thing, the threat that we saw was technology. But let me talk about other success factors for companies, which leads me into society. To me, for a company to be successful, there are 4 pillars which are the stakeholders. One is the customer, the second is the investor, the third is your associate or your employee, and the fourth is the society. And I keep saying that if you neglect even one of them, there's disaster impending. And then one other thing that's very important is these 4 are cross-purposes with each other. They're not with unison with each other. Your ability to make sure that you're equitable to all the 4 stakeholders make companies successful. But amongst these 4, the society is a silent spectator. And I think Murli used this word. But for the support and the subsidies, most of us would not have been in this room going to IITs, to the IIMs, to engineering colleges, and so on and so forth. I'll assure you, I'm one of them too, Murli, that I wouldn't have been here too, but for the subsidies and the support that came from the society. So it becomes imperative for every one of us who is successful thereafter to pay back to the society. It is extremely important, we say, the society, though it is very, very dormant, requires that attention. So we took upon ourselves as a company to make sure that we would pay our role. And much before even the rule came in of the CSR, the 2%, I think it came in 2017 or 2016. Even 10 years before that, we were trying to spend a sizable amount of our money, 1 to 1.5% of our profits was being spent. I may have a slightly different opinion than Vikram. I believe very strongly in terms of measuring output rather than the input. So therefore, what we did was, and second thing that I also want to do with my support to society or the NGO part of it, is to make sure that you're very focused on what you want to do. Because there's so many initiatives that can be taken in this country. I keep saying it's like a whiteboard with specks of dust which are there are the initiatives like Vikram, maybe a much larger speck of dust, mine is smaller one, Vikram. But these are all small things. But if every one of us join hands, and if all join together, there could be a good picture that will emerge for this nation in terms of what we are doing from the corporate or individuals or institutions to make sure that the society becomes better. So we choose education to start with. We adopted the government schools. We started with 1, 2, 3, it became 38 of them, I believe, are currently under our management. And I can tell you stories after stories. I'm very clear, I should be very conscious that I'm not here for talking for too long, but I'll share you a little bit of insight into what we've done. The insight was that when we walked into these government schools, you'll find something very interesting. We found something very interesting. And that was the girl child population depleted from class to class as the classes became higher and higher. I feel a little disappointed. Even in this room, we have a small portion of women only, my girl child. And so we went back to this question, which we call it as relentless root cause analysis, RRCA, to say, why is this girl child population becoming smaller and smaller as the classes become higher and higher? You could find the most mundane thing that could have ever think about. The taps in the washrooms were stolen. There's no water in the washroom, so they're not usable anymore. My little girl child, the moment she understands what is privacy, she has only one option: stop going to school, unless her school was close by. We went back and did the next one. Why are the taps stolen in the schools? The so-called watchman does not do the job. And these were all in semi-urban areas of Hyderabad city. And most of them were encroached. So there's nothing called boundary. Everybody had an access to the school. Everything was their fun and games. I feel sad, but I'll still tell you. The children used to come and sweep the floors in the morning. And what did the children find? I did that one day. Broken beer bottles, used condoms. Is that a child would look for in the morning? We would never allow that to do. So we said first thing that has to happen is build compound walls for the schools. Doesn't matter, if it is illegally occupied, I said I don't want to take legal problems into hand. What we do is whatever we can push back, we'll push back and build the walls. We built the walls. We put our security. We put 2 security guards, which are all the 38 schools have our security right now for 12 hours each. What is the outcome of it? I measured that, Vikram. The outcome is from a situation where we were 15% of the children in any school was girl child. Today we touch the hearts of 20,000 children in 38 schools, and 54% of my children in these schools are girl child. The majority of them are girl child. And we constantly measure that. We measure 4 or 5 things, all right? But this is a key critical parameter. The man who does all this is also here. Krishna Devi, can you stand up for a minute? There he is at the back. He's my eyes and ears of what we do on these initiatives. Amazing effort that's gone in. Year after year, we made sure that the numbers would only improve. How does it improve? We brought the volunteers. We'll talk about it later. The second one is that we think is very important. One is on the CSR front. One message I have for all of you is make sure that you look at the outcome. Effort could be enormous, but what's the outcome is what's important. The second one is that all of us are, fairly successful in some form or other in terms of corporate world. And corporates became successful largely because of processes. You go and replicate the same processes that are there in your corporate world into these social initiatives. A third one, which is important, I think Vikram again talked about it in a while, is volunteerism, Vikram. I really liked what you said, bringing the volunteers. But volunteerism is the next step to it. As I said, we employ about 18,000 people across the world. About 8,000 of them are situated in Hyderabad. And these 8,000 people, it surprised even us when we started talking to them about these initiatives. They all said they want to come and do volunteering work. We therefore give 2 hours off to our employees who want to go and work in our schools every week. They can write in their timesheet saying that they went to the school for volunteering work. And what is the outcome of that? Is 1,000 people that are today volunteering in the schools for us. 1,000 of our highly educated, highly skilled employees who go to these schools week after week to go and spend time with these children for their upliftment. So if you look at these 3 things, They're amazing, outcome-based, process-driven, and finally say that volunteerism becomes important. That is what I think has become very important in our social initiatives. To give you a flavor of this is that roughly, I can share the number. We are between 500 crores to 600 crores of profit for the last 3 years. So our spend should be between 10 to 12 crores. Our spend has been literally more like 14 crores per year is what we're spending on this initiative. But here is one other catch. If you go back and now do the back of the envelope calculation of what it costs for 2 hours of time for 1,000 engineers every week being given to the society, that's more than 100 crores of money for us. But we think that's a good cause. We certainly make sure that it gets well used thereafter. So that was the second messaging I had on the society part. My third part of it, youth and employment that Murali talked about, which is also very dear to me. The situation is disastrous, nothing short of that. I spend a lot of time in this area. Disastrous that, rightly so, Murali, you also use the same words. Demographic dividend can turn out to be a demographic disaster for this nation if you don't now intervene and make those interventions. I did some work extensively for Government of India way back in 2018 and in 2021 on technical education. I drew up a perspective plan for technical education for this nation. And so therefore, I have all the data with me, a data which is frightening to me. So I don't want to frighten you people, but I'll share a few data points for you. Today, in the undergraduate engineering education in this country, there are 14 lakh seats. 1.4 lakhs is the capacity they created. Randomly giving licenses to the politician or the thug of the place or the businessman who did not have any concept. He says education is another way of churning out cash. Capitation fees are there. And people made it out of it. So there are 1.5 lakh seats. 15 lakhs, 14 lakhs to 15 lakhs. But for the last 5 years, in no single year in this country, we have ever got more than 10 lakhs of students enrolled to engineering education in any single year. So we have actually no more than 66% of capacity utilization, 2/3 of it. And so which also means, you say, so what, Mr. Reddy? Look at the capex that we have spent. When some of these colleges were being closed, some of the politicians came back to me and said, Mr. Reddy, why don't you revise your report, saying that these are the parameters we need to change. What is the reason, sir? I have took a bank loan. If I don't pay the bank will get to lose the money. Why don't we just make sure that we all join hands to make the bank prosperous? I said, that's not good enough for me. A third thing that we also found is out of this 10 lakhs or 1 million who are graduating, no single year between 2018 and 2022, I have statistics, more than 500,000 people got jobs as soon as they graduated or for 9 months thereafter. Because off-campus, AICT keeps track of these students for 9 months. So which means only 50% of the graduating class, or so-called 1/3 of what we have as a capacity, become employable. So the question is why? Why is because there's so much of a gap between what is desired by the organizations, institutions, industry, and what we are churning out today. There's such a wide gap that it's not easy to be fixed. It can be starting with curriculum, it's pedagogy, it's the skill of the teacher, it's a classroom that we have. There are so many of them, including the society. And I think with this type of education, first thing that we need to fix is education. The second one that comes thereafter is, I think Murali talked about, this employment. My numbers are slightly different from Murali's, but fairly close to them, so don't read too much between them. But what I keep saying is, we put 1 million people in the streets of India for jobs every month. We put 10 million people into the streets of India every year, approximately. And given the demographic dividend, we put 100 million people, or 10 crores of people, into streets of India for net new jobs. And these jobs are to be created. And there's enough evidence around the world at this point of time to say that new jobs get created by startups and MSMEs and not large companies. Majority of them, the precise number is 40-60. 40% of the jobs get created by large companies, 60% of the jobs get created by the startups and MSMEs. You know, they border between each other. So therefore, what I think is the key for us, Murli, is creating opportunities in terms of becoming entrepreneurs. And a good symbol of that is where you are all sitting today, the T-Hub. 10 years back, I wrote the Articles of Association for T-Hub. I was the founder, director of T-Hub. And today it's the largest incubation center in the country. Thank you. Have we done enough? No, not yet. Have we solved the problem? Not yet. I think we have to have many more T-Hubs to come by. And only then will we find that this employment problem can be resolved. Sorry, I took a little longer time, but I'll just wind it up by saying the CSR part, the society support part of it, is that not only we did this education, we took it to the next step. I can tell you stories and stories, is that we have loads and loads of computers. So therefore, what are we doing with those computers right now? We use them for adult digital literacy. So as the children go home at 4 o'clock from our schools, thereafter these equipment is used extensively till 8 o'clock in the night. We then have created micro-skilling centers at this point of time for employment. And the biggest one, which is very dear to me, and I have to mention that, is that I went ahead and built a school of innovation and entrepreneurship with a fairly large grant at IIT Hyderabad. This is primarily to promote entrepreneurship. We have an innovation, TIP in IIT Hyderabad called Technology Innovation Park. We have Technology Research Park. I said if these two have to triangulate together, it had to be an entrepreneurship school. So to sum it up, it's not going to be an effort for an individual. It's not an effort from a corporate. All of us have, as a society, have to size up to this particular challenge that we have in this nation. And I'm very sure that we all together can solve this problem. Thank you very much, Murli, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for listening to me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohan sir. We are going to be playing an AV on TMI Group and its impact of the last 33 years. So could I please request the dignitaries to take their seat in the audience? Thank you.
Today, TMI Group completes 33 years. It's not just a milestone, but a legacy of transformation and empowerment. Over these 3 decades, we have helped young Indians get jobs, get skilled and grow. More than 3 lakh people have gotten jobs and more than 6 lakh people have been skilled and trained. The social impact of our work is what we are proud of. We have worked at the grassroots levels to bring in the change. Here are 3 high social impact projects we are very proud of. Training 1.4 million Anganwadi workers to reduce maternal mortality and improve child health. We consulted with the multilateral agency and Government of India team to build a robust, sustainable, digital capacity building model. More than 800,000 Anganwadi workers are certified, which would result in positive nutritional and growth outcomes for over 16 million children in the 0 to 6 years age group. The employment van, a modified van converted into a walk-in job center, connects the local youth to hyper-local jobs so they can earn and not go out of pocket traveling to work. 50,000 plus youth have been employed through the van. This project was conceived and executed with the Hyderabad City Police. With Babu School, with a vision to transform the lives of 10,000 unprivileged children. The Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad chapter has started Udbhav School. At Udbhav School, children are groomed in academics, sports, soft skills with a special emphasis on STEM education. We involve parents in the effort to ensure the child continues his/her education and progresses to higher education. Our objective is to help the children to raise at least 2 economic levels from their current status. Through TMI Foundation, we channel TMI CSR funds and to bring in CSR funds from our customers as well to create a larger impact on the community. Our journey is also shaped by the dedicated individuals within the TMI family. Their passion, hard work, and unwavering commitment have been the driving force behind every success story we've witnessed. As we celebrate our formation day today, let's take a moment to reflect on the lives touched, the dreams realized, and the futures shaped by TMI Group. Thank you to everyone who has been a part of this incredible journey. Here's to 33 years of making a difference.
We have 2 very special girls, Meghna and Chandana, who got trained on cybersecurities by TMI and got placed in EduHolic as network analysts. They are here to share their experience. Please join me in welcoming Meghna and Chandana.
Hello everyone. A pleasant good evening to one and all over here. I am Chandana and she is my twin sister. Her name is Meghna. First of all, thank you so much for giving your valuable time to share our experience with you. And when we are 12 years old, our father was expired. From on that day to till now, our mother is taking care of us. Our mother name is Lata. She is a tailor. Our income is about 10,000 per month. We faced a lot of struggles up to our intermediate. At a point of time, we both decided to stop our education. But our mother supported us a lot to continue our studies. And successfully, we accomplished our engineering because of our mother's support. And also, we received merit scholarships. And she will continue that.
When we are now... Hi everyone. And when we are now final year of our engineering, we got to know about the cybersecurity training, which is free of cost. And the main agenda of this training is to encourage the women for better employment as equal to the men. And I'm very happy for that. And we took training for 3 months and we also certified and also got placement in a company. And I'm very excited to share that we both were placed in a company called EduHolic as a network analyst at 3 lakh per annum. Thank you so much. We are very thankful to the whole team of TMI Group and ASCOM Foundation for implementing this best program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we also have a huge round of applause for Meghna and Chandana's mother, Srimati Lata. Thank you. TMD, over to you.
Thank you very much for all of you for coming here. I think that stories like this only makes your day at the end of the day. Whatever we do, money we make, we go and eat in 5-star hotels. One story like that lasts for several days for me. But I think that conversation now, I want to take it to what Mohan Reddy Garu ended. What we can do. What the government can do, they will do. That's not our job. Our job is what each of us can do, right? So I'm going to open it up for anybody who wants to share, and we'll ask them to take some notes on this, and later on we'll try and see. But the focus is what Mohan Reddy Garu said. Whatever way you can contribute, maybe volunteering, maybe money, maybe taking interest in government schools, maybe getting interested in employability training, or as a company, how can you do more to expand your reach in CSR to help the youth? So that's the open topic. I'm going to leave it open. Anybody would like to go first, and I'll come to you with the mic. And yeah, please. Yeah, no, I'll walk around. No. I prefer to walk, yeah.
I request panelists to be on the stage so that they can. No, panelist. Yeah, I'm Rajkumar. I'm a consulting engineer, civil engineering graduate, postgraduate. Yeah, I echo with the Reddy sir, but the challenges we are facing to the employees, like we are not able to get 15 lakhs or 14 lakhs people coming out of the engineering colleges and 5 lakh as employable, out of which even the 24% of the GDP we are spending on the infra. Being a civil engineer, I'm talking about. On this, we are not able to get a quality engineers in the civil engineering stream, one number. Number two, we need to work on the civil engineering or the infra engineers, where now today each and every college is shutting down their civil engineering trade. And this is a very alarming. I'm also president of South India and All India Vice President for the consulting civil engineers. And we are facing a lot of challenges, even to execute the works, to design the works, and to support the government at this scale. The scale is huge. So we need to work on this. Mr. Reddy is really working hard on this, and every year we are facing a challenge. And this year we got only 2,000 civil engineers joined in the engineering colleges in civil. And the demand is 10 times more than that in this infra. So this is one area we are looking at. And the second area, the normal graduates, why we are not able to get the quality education had people with us. The system, now NEP is there in place. National New Education Policy is there. But how much we can implement it and make the collateral and lateral subject-oriented training to the students. That way we need to work more, and we are here to support the system, whether it may be NGO or TMI or the, because BVR sir is also a chairman of our IIT Hyderabad, board of directors. So lot of things we are working, but we need to come to a common platform where we can share our thoughts. A regular interactive platform is required. Now such platform you are created today, but tomorrow a regular platform is missing with the industry, academia, and the R&D. These three linkages need to happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody would like to comment from the speaker side? Reddy Garu, want to say something? I think the issue of the supply side issue. I think we discussed the supply and demand side.
Couple of thoughts that I had. Very good questions that you raised. One is that what you said is right, that today we definitely find there is shortage of core engineering people in the country. It's very pathetic. You said 2,000 people joined the civil engineering stream this year. It's very true with other streams like mechanical engineering or chemical engineering for that matter. The way out of it is twofold, I keep telling people. One is that individually, some of you who are doing so well with infrastructure, adopt some of these colleges and go and speak to the students so that you'll probably have a lot more students who can, I need to give this off, yeah, who can probably get more trained, more skilled in the areas that are of interest to you. The second one is, in a much larger scale, what we're trying to implement right now across the country is making sure that we bring in more amount of flexibility into our engineering education. People are getting put off by saying, I'm going to do civil engineering, whereas my neighbor only does computer science and computer engineering or information technology and so on and so forth. But people have to realize at this point of time that technology has become all pervasive, and it's applicable to every potential area of industry. I challenge people, you tell me an industry, and I'll give you an example of a use case at this point of time as how technology is being deployed. Take the case of civil engineering. We use several amount of sensors at this point of time, sensor technologies, to make sure even to see the vibration, the life of the road, or the traffic patterns that are going by. So what we're implementing is that make core only 50% of the course. The other 50% has to be given flexibility to the student. You called out very well the NEP 2020. NEP 2020 provides these. Some of the state governments, because of political reasons, not any other reason, don't want to implement NEP 2020, but they'll implement it in different form. They all understand this. So some of those very nice things that are there in NEP 2020 are the ones which are pushing very hard. For instance, people like you who are so knowledgeable have to come and teach people. Why do you require only theoreticians to be in teaching a class? So these are the interventions will probably bridge the gap. And my immediate intervention would be go see some of the engineering colleges, motivate those students and get them into your institution to ensure that you become a lot more successful.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add one comment about technology in education. We are one of the largest digital companies. As you saw some case studies, we work with World Bank, etc. I think Indian colleges still have not understood the power of what is available online. Second, and I said that earlier, skills comes only when you're doing, not by learning. How do you integrate doing and learning? Learning by doing is one of the methodologies I think have been recommended by CMU long ago. How do you change your curriculum and the instructional design of curriculum to learn by doing? I think these are two things we'll have to think about. How do you use technology? How do you redesign the instructional design, not by lecture-based, but how do you do this? These are two things we can think about. Anybody else would have? Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aseem Prakash. I come from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. I will not go into dissecting the problem because I think most of the people here are well versed. I just want to flag one point and then come to that how perhaps we can join your efforts. The first thing which all of us know, the biggest problem is, I may be wrong with figures plus 2 or 3 here and there, is that we contribute 16 to 17% of the GDP from agriculture and around 40 to 45% of the population is still dependent on agriculture. And that's the biggest issue. And how do we create a pathway which aligns with the economic growth vision of the nation? That is the real issue. I think the first speaker said very categorically that if we have to do this, we have to go beyond Hyderabad's, Bangalore's, Calcutta. We have to go to the second tier, Aurangabad's, Jhansi, Auraiya, Devariya, where you have been to. These are the cities which you have to spot at. But now what I'm trying to bring the pathway is that when there is a lot of concern about AI and taking the jobs, I have scientific reasons to believe if given a right directions, AIs will create more jobs. This was the same fear which was there when the computers were introduced. So I feel if the only way is to that, how do we create that skill sets? And that is the challenge, and I personally feel very strongly that a broad platform has to be encouraged for that by bringing in various domains and expertise of knowledge, including social sciences, to bring that vision forward. We will be ready to host this kind of a platform if required. Second way in which we can make a contribution is that we run a very successful course on social entrepreneurship. And we'll be most happy to recruit more and more students to get into it and perhaps eke out a living, a dignified living with dignity for them also. Thank you so much.
So I'm Uma, and the deliberations I think were very, very thought-provoking. But a couple of things that stand out for me for a long time is lesser and lesser people are wanting to get into manufacturing sector. What you've been talking about doing, learning by doing, I think lesser and lesser people are interested in getting into that. And that is very worrying, because if we keep telling everybody that our capacity to manufacture is increasing, then where are the people going to come from? Yeah, so that's one concern, and how are we going to address it? Number two is, a lot of people are available in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, but they can't afford to come down to bigger cities like this and make a living with the expenses that we have. Now, industries and government need to come together to provide for these people to stay here, work, get skill, and tomorrow when tier 2 and tier 3 comes up, they probably can go back, right? So we expect somebody to come here and earn 15,000 and make a living. I think it's very, very difficult. The transport itself costs so much here, living expenses, everything. So how do we address this? This is really something we need to deliberate. Some organizations have started providing for hostels, as one of the speakers said, but it's not feasible to run this for a very long time. And at some point in time, you compromise. So, will there be a consortium of industries to come together to create some facilities like this where people can stay at least for some time before they start getting into something else? And the third point from my end is, it's so encouraging to see what has been done for the girl child in many of these places. But I'm saying, they don't come in for jobs, particularly the manufacturing jobs, okay? So if there is a plant at Kisara or some other place, how do you expect women to come there? The processes are not so difficult, especially in pharma, if you see. The processes are not so difficult, not manual labor intensive. But still women are not coming forward because we have these kind of issues, yeah? And people sort of count pennies when it comes to giving certain facilities. So, I think there is, as we were just discussing amongst ourselves, there are a lot of jobs, but there aren't people ready to take those jobs, even though you talked about 5 million and 6 lakh people, getting out of the school. So how do we connect that demand and supply together?
Quick comment on all your points about, we've been recommending, I've put it in the note in front of you, we're talking about skill hostels for the last 10 years to government. If you we studied the skill hostel, supposing we create skill hostel for migrant labor, the major cost is land. The government can give a long-term lease on land. There are contractors willing to build that hostel, run the hostel at a low cost for migrant people to come. So that's an easier problem. Governments are still not buying into that model. I think they have a lot of land. You know how much land Telangana government has got, right? We don't want to talk about it. The second about women, I think there is clearly a challenge and a lot of studies. Yesterday I was talking to somebody who's done maximum work on diversity. And he says that the men still believe women cannot do some jobs. So most of the time, including the first problem you talked about, is perception management. The parents are the biggest problem today in India. They make a big say in where the children go, and therefore a lot of our effort has to go into prepare and educate the parents of that generation of children who are coming in. Similarly, we need to do a lot more work on, in terms of the quality of work women do, even in a factory, is changed completely. It's no longer manual, as you said. But the point is, their perception has to change. The girl's parents' perception has to change. The parent will not allow her to go to work in a factory, right? So these are challenges of perception, which is a bigger problem. I don't think we have a simpler issue, but some of them we can sort. Which we can. Yes, sure, can do. Media, very important area is media. We used to write for earlier Hindu opportunities, and we used to talk about the same thing. But all of us can contribute in our own way. Social media, you are there. All of us could contribute. Yeah, thank you.
TMI. Good evening to all of you. I'm V. Venkatramana, the Director of HIMS Training and Solutions. Yeah, sure.
I'll abuse my position as a speaker and then occupy. No, I just wanted to respond on two things. One is on this measure of GDP and 16% growth and 45% unemployed. I think we are obsessed with this GDP number. And GDP doesn't measure an important input which is extensively, should be measured in countries like India and mostly South Asia. The contribution of women at home is not measured. You have just heard the stories of those two children here, where the mother has sacrificed, but that is not an economic measure. And so when we are talking about GDP growth, we should understand the limitations of that measure of GDP, that one factor. I would like to respond on the other one, on the China experiment. China did three things to improve their skills. One, and I hope the first two things we don't do it in India, but the first one they did was this. They pursued a very strong one child policy. The consequence of the one child policy is lesser number of people joined the labor force for a longer period of time. So that is one way of disguised control of employment. The second thing is they put physical barriers for migration from rural to urban city infrastructure. We will not want to do it, and you can see it's not a democratic process. But the third thing which they did is what we should reproduce in India. I didn't want to mention it because he said I should talk about NGO, but now I'm talking about non-NGO. The China had pursued a very active, competitive policy on TVE, town and village enterprises. Millions and millions of jobs were created in a competitive landscape, which is very unlike in a communist nation, to create jobs in rural enterprises, invested in them, and promoted those rural enterprises and MSMEs with a single objective of retaining, of stopping migration and improving skills at a rural level. That is why I said that we should concentrate on Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5. That's why I said that China did it successfully, and I hope we don't want to follow the one-child policy. That's all.
I think before you, one point he didn't say about China. China is doing something called streaming. Anybody cannot get into any education. They're streaming children in the very early stage where they can go to skills, where they can go to, I think Singapore does it. In India, we want too much of democracy. That's another problem, right? You don't have skills, you don't have an attitude, but you can do anything else. So we'll stop here. Last two questions, because a lot of people are leaving. I'm going to stop with you. Sure. And then he has a question. And then we will have time. Along with rum and vodka, I think it'll become better. So we'll have a meeting later on. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. Good evening to all of you. And it's a great pleasure to be here. And first of all, congratulations to TMI for this wonderful thing. Because I want to share 4 things today. Number one, all the 4 speakers, if you carefully look into, Vikram, they didn't share that he runs an organization called Manthan. That's how I became associated with you. And needless to say about Mr. Muralidharan, his articles in Hindu used to inspire me, right? And I'm an anthropologist by profession, started an organization called HIMS, the first Management Skills Training Institute in India. Learning by doing, without material. We have trained around 3,900 batches. And I believe in one aspect, the teaching-learning process. Whether Mr. Vikram was telling, whether it's the volunteer or the print office or the byproduct that comes, the most important part that is missing in India is facilitation. Learning, the facilitation process has not still begun. It's all the monologue, even today. And technology is really taking over. So the first thing is to bring in this change in the system. I shifted from an anthropologist to become an educationist only for that. Thanks that I could not get into IFS, and that's how I landed here. So second, third, about Mr. Mohan Reddy, needless to say, a wonderful person, because in Maitrivan, he started this thing and rose up. And today I'm so happy. See, all of us should think like a leader. This is the first thing. Whatever it be, the best of the ITNs still working somewhere. Why not they be on their toes? So what do we lack? We lack the ability to make them think on the toes. And this is what exactly my question to you, sir. And how do we bridge that gap between the teaching-learning process? And all the 4 of them were catalysts between the academic and the industry. No doubt about it. And we all here, I'm sure many of them are doing that. How do we bring in that collaboration? The PPP model is a wonderful model, no doubt about it. But how far is it effective? That is where exactly. So my question to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Murali, for giving me an opportunity. This is Ramesh Vemuganti, former president of HMA, management teacher, corporate trainer. I'll use all my experience in the next couple of minutes to share two important points. One, the great Peter Drucker said, the purpose of business is to create a customer. India is obsessed with IT for the past 30 years. Now we are obsessed with AI. In future, the latest technologies. So this is becoming a technology-driven country, but we are a people-oriented economy. The point is, we have to create markets in tier 2 and tier 3 cities and towns. IBM, Compaq, HP have gone to these towns in 2004, 2005. Not today. They have gone to Nizamabad, they have gone to Ajmer, they have gone to Guwahati, they have gone to Meerut and created markets, and they are doing extremely well. But what happened to the small businesses and the entrepreneurs and the startups? They have not opened out. So once we go and create customers, markets will open out. Everything starts from creating business. Once business is created, entrepreneurs will come. Entrepreneurs will come, skills will come. Skills will come, employees will come. Youth can be trained. They can be properly employed. The focus must be completely on creating new markets. We had Made in India, we had Startup India, we had Digital India, we have Skill India. Now we need Sell in India. That is my message. The second point is, Japan has more than 1 lakh skill centers. Even Germany also has more than 1 lakh of skill centers. So they've been focusing on skills for decades. That's the reason they're all advanced economies today. It's very clear. India, they're all probably 8, 9, 10% of India's population. China has approximately 5 lakh plus skill centers. If you take India, I think probably it may be around 20 to 30,000. So let's start with Telangana. Telangana immediately requires 2,000 skill centers. That is the top priority. Let's all be stakeholders in that and see that we have a permanent establishment. It is not some promise, it has to be done properly. I mean, you are all a pioneer in this, especially yourself and your TMI. Take an initiative and see that it happens. Massive employment can be created at the middle level. Today, the managers, it is not only the 22-year-old, it is a 72-year-old also who needs a job today. We can have employment across the sectors, and that's going to make a big difference. These are the two main suggestions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Last comment, and then we're going to stop.
Yes.
We're going to go to better things.
Yeah, I'll come back to what TMD has asked, what as an individual and what as a organization we can do. My name is Rushikesh, and I am some of the fortunate people who have spent time with both TMI and Murli. So out of these 33 years, I think, of TMI journey, 3 years of my life also overlap with it. And that's, with that experience, I wanted to bring two very simple case studies which will answer this question. And one we have seen was a EVAN, and other is Hon'ble school. Fortunately, I was involved on both the fronts. And there is what it takes to do some initiatives like this on a personal front as well as the company's front I talk about. And there is three things which stands out. The model of 3 C's, I will call it. One is commitment. When we thought of starting the EVAN, it was not about starting the EVAN. The Murli came up with a problem. The urban unemployment is the biggest issue, and how we can solve it, how we can commit for that problem. Be it as an individual, when it comes to Hon'ble school, when the school was on the verge of closing, when the problem came to Murli, Murli said, okay, how as an individual I can solve this problem? So everything's begin with that commitment. Second is collaboration. Sometimes you find as an individual, as a company, you are a small entity, how you can collaborate. EVAN is a good example. When we started, we approached JSMC, we collaborated. Then we went, I think, I was not there, but we went and collaborated with the Telangana police. So very good example that, okay, with the collaboration, how you can be successful. On the other example, Hon'ble school, when we reached out to fellow alumni of IIM Ahmedabad, we fall short of the fund. We reached out to companies. So collaboration solve many problems. And when people come up with the common cause, that collaboration bound to happen. Last but not the least, being a charitable. And here I can vouch for both TMI and Murli because I have seen it from close quarters. See, charity begins at home. You can talk about problems, you can discuss at length, you can drink at the end of the day and go home. The problems remains as it is. But I know Murli, he takes problems head on. The TMI group, when I have seen, when it comes to e-van, the question was, who will sponsor the van? And Murli's answer was very simple, I will sponsor the van. And then we sponsor the van. We end up on the streets of Hyderabad with that van and got that project rolling. When it comes to Udbhav school, who will pay the first, who will sign the first check? And I was also remember that that time also it was Murli. So kudos to that TMD for TMI group and your contribution for the social change. This 33 years is a remarkable journey, and each one of us, I mean, I learn immensely from Murli. Each one of us as a company, as an individual can learn from both TMI groups and Murli as an individual. Thank you very much.
I think it's 7:30. We are going to close on time. And I want to thank all of you, and especially a very good friend, Archana Suresh. Come here and say something about what the government, we've been talking about private sector. I want you to talk about what Telangana government is doing in relation to CSR and how many of us can reach out to you and do something with the government. Please come. Just 2 minutes, and then we're winding up, yeah?
Thank you, Murli Garu, and congratulations on this milestone event. Good evening, everyone. My name is Archana Suresh. I'm Director TSIG, Telangana Social Impact Group. That's the CSR wing of the government. We're part of the Industries Department. I recognize quite a few familiar faces here. On a lighter note, this is my 17th year of work. I spent 14 years in the corporate, and I joke that I serve my time. But on a slightly more serious note, I think many of us here are committed to the idea of giving back to the community. And that was the genesis of TSIG, Telangana Social Impact Group, which was set up by Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, whom I report to, the Principal Secretary in the Telangana government. So what we do under TSIG is that we connect 400 plus corporates to 200 plus NGOs and about 35 government departments. These are pro bono services that the government offers to corporates, and the whole idea is to be that channel, because a lot of corporates want to work with the government, but they don't know where to begin. So, in a nutshell, I'd like to just sort of extend, our cooperation to any of you who want to contribute in some form to the community via CSR. And I look forward to meeting and networking with some of you at the end of this event. Thank you, Murli Garu.
As Prasad is going to give the vote of thanks, and of course, I personally want to thank many of you before he does the formal vote of thanks. I want to talk about informal vote of thanks. I think many of you are here. I have a lot of personal connections to each of you. I remember Mon Reddy Garu I met yesterday. I didn't give him a chance to ask him to come here. And our relationship was so deep, I think he accepted my request to come. Like that, there are many people, but there is one person, Raghu, I wanted to call out. He's going to join our trust. TMI started a foundation trust now, that is about 5-6 years ago. And Raghu, are you there? I want to thank him. He's going to join as a trustee. Thank you, Raghu. Thank you so much. I think one important contribution all of you can make is to join NGO trust. Whatever you are, you can contribute in some way, because NGOs are also struggling in terms of fundraising. They're struggling in terms of professionalism. And we need to find a vehicle, which I think maybe Suresh can help us. How do we connect some of our skill set to the NGOs in a genuine entrepreneur mindset? We should bring it to NGOs. I'll stop here. Over to Prasad.
I will just introduce Prasad. Prasad Desai is an alumni of IIM Ahmedabad, and he has about 2 decades of experience in banking sector, and he is our newest Chief Business Officer. He is the CBO for Talent Management. Please give it up for Prasad Desai. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I know I'm the last person who's holding back the cocktails and the snacks, so I won't take too much of time. Just 2 minutes and then we are done with it. I think a lot of organizations start with a purpose. In most cases, that purpose is probably profit to a good extent. Not that profit is a bad word to start off with, but profit obviously is something that sustains organizations for a longer period. 1991, if I step back, right, when Murli would have started this journey, that purpose was much larger than profit. Even today, when we sit down with Murli, we sit down with BR, I think the whole P word of profit comes in much, much later. The larger purpose and the larger passion with which TMI has been built is the impact that it's been able to create, not only for the employees, not only for people who have benefited, but society at a large, right? I think today we take immense pride. The entire TMI team is here. We have our clients, we have people who have contributed in this journey, right? I think we are absolutely delighted to be a part of this TMI journey, right? And I think we've come 33 years, we've still got a long way to go. We can be rest assured that TMI will play a big role on the purpose and passion which is impacting society in a very big way. Thank you everyone for being a part of this journey, and we'll look forward to continuing and scaling up this impact. Thank you so much. So now with that, I think we are opening up for snacks and cocktails. Thank you so much.